This summer's drought is continuing to have an effect on farmers nationwide, and local farmers are feeling the heat as well. Meanwhile, legislation that determines agriculture and nutrition policy is set to expire at the end of this month. Lacey Monteleone is now live in the studio with more on the bill and how indecision in Congress has left many farmers hanging in the balance.
Well, Dennis, the Food Conservation and Energy Act, commonly called the Farm Bill, is a bundle of legislation passed every 5 years. The current bill is set to expire September 30th, and it's unlikely that the Republican-controlled House and Democrat-controlled Senate will be able to make a decision on that bill by that time, and that has farmers worried. For many farmers, farming is not just a job. It's a way of life.
There's nothing more that can be said than to raise your kids on a farm and having the good work ethic for them to understand where their food comes from and the work that it takes to bring it to the world.
The same goes for John Arneson and his curious cattle.
I worked for years at Bemidji State and in human resources, and sometimes things would tend to get intense. And that's where working around cattle is a good counterbalance, because you can say anything you want to them and they'll love you unconditionally if you feed them.
But there's no question that this year the feed is becoming harder to come by, and it's left the Evgy family with lots of questions.
If we sell things now, are we going to be able to rebuild the herd with the price of cattle right now? When is the drought going to be over enough to sustain them again for pasture-wise, for crop-wise?
The family is already out of good pasture on their farm.
The pasture that we save here for later is likely going to be increased stress on it, so we need to start feeding the hay now.
Normally at the Eckery's farm, hay is stacked up to where I'm standing, but as you can see this year, things are a little bit different.
When we only have a half a crop of hay anyway, to start also 2 months earlier is likely that we'll probably run out of hay too early next spring and that'll become the big problem.
She's hoping Congress will soon make a decision on the Farm Bill so that farmers will be able to worry less about the little things.
There's a lot of stuff about low interest loans, and so if money gets so tight that people are looking for loans, you know, being able to get those, getting some aid to kind of compensate, being able to compensate for some of our loss.
So the Farm Bill, we really don't know how to plan for next year because we don't know what the program is. So certainly the number one thing a Farm Bill would give to agriculture, to farmers and ranchers, would be certainty of the next 5 years.
Arneson counts himself as lucky.
We buy the steers in the fall, so we can just buy fewer. I live with the assumption that things are going to continue as they've been. And so when it's been so dry, it's probably going to continue to be dry.
Both farmers keep hoping for some rain, because for them, farming is not just a job.
It's a huge, huge financial burden. It's a huge time burden. But if I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it.
Now, the title Farm Bill is a little misleading in that the legislation does not only cover agriculture. The bill also covers nutrition initiatives, food stamps, forest sustainability, renewable energy, and the list goes on. So if the bill is not renewed by the end of the month, many people besides farmers could be affected, Dennis.
Okay, thank you, Lacey, for the live report from our studio tonight. A Farm Bill Now rally made up of farm and ranch organizations will be held in Washington, D.C. 1 week from today.
If you've enjoyed this segment of Lakeland News, please consider making a tax-deductible contribution to Lakeland Public Television.